The studio lights blazed overhead, bathing the set of the Kelly Clarkson Show in a golden warmth. The audience buzzed with anticipation, their chatter forming a low hum as they waited for the next guest. Kelly Clarkson, radiating her trademark Texas charm, leaned forward in her chair with an eager smile, hands clasped and ready to dive in. It was supposed to be a lively, feel-good hour of television, the kind of show that drew millions. Today's guest was Kevin Hart, a comedy powerhouse whose sharp wit and endless energy had made him a household name. He was there to promote his new movie, and the buzz around it was electric. Everyone expected laughter, a few touching moments, and the usual dose of Kelly's easy warmth. But from the moment Kevin walked on stage, something felt off. He entered with his signature grin, waving to the crowd as they erupted in cheers, some even standing to clap. Kelly rose to greet him, her laughter echoing as they embraced. "Kevin Hart, y'all," she called out, and for a moment the atmosphere was electric. Kevin cracked a joke about his height. The audience roared, and Kelly's laughter filled the studio. Everything seemed perfect TV magic in motion. But beneath the easy banter, a quiet tension simmered, invisible to most. It began with a simple question. Kelly flipped through her note cards, her tone warm and curious. "So Kevin, this new movie of yours touches on some heavy themes. Family, struggle, redemption. You've said it's personal. How much of you is in this role?" It was the kind of question that usually led to a heartfelt story. But Kevin's smile tightened. He shifted slightly, his fingers tapping the armrest. "It's a movie, Kelly," he said lightly, but his tone was clipped. "I act. I don't live it." The audience chuckled, expecting a punchline that never came. Kelly's brow furrowed slightly, her smile faltering before she pressed on. "Sure, but you've talked about your mom, your past, those tough times. That's got to bleed into the work, right?" The air in the studio seemed to shift. Kevin's grin vanished, replaced by a cool, hard stare. "Why's it always got to be about that?" he asked, his voice low, almost challenging. The audience fell silent. Kelly blinked, caught off guard, but years of hosting had taught her to recover quickly. "I just mean your fans love that realness, the heart you bring," she said, gesturing to the crowd. But Kevin wasn't softening. "Fans love the jokes, Kelly," he said sharply. "They don't need my life story dissected on your couch." The words hit hard. A murmur rippled through the audience. This wasn't the Kevin Hart they knew. Kelly tried to steer the energy back, her voice bright. "Okay, let's talk comedy then. You're always pushing boundaries. Any lines you won't cross?" It was a safe question, a reset button. But Kevin leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. "You want to talk lines? How about the line where people stop digging into stuff that's none of their business?" Gasps filled the studio. Kelly's frozen smile twitched, her hands tightening around her note cards. Offstage, producers exchanged anxious glances, their headsets buzzing. Something was wrong, very wrong. The tension in the air was thick, electric. Kelly's voice, calm but strained, tried to bring the conversation back to neutral ground. "All right, let's lighten it up. Tell us about working with your co-star. She's a legend." But Kevin wasn't budging. Leaning back with his arms crossed, he said flatly, "You know what, Kelly? Maybe I'm tired of playing nice for everybody." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. The audience froze, every eye darting between them. Kelly's face hardened, her charm giving way to quiet resolve. She gripped her cards, the paper crinkling slightly, but her voice stayed level. "We're just having a conversation, Kevin," she said steadily. "That's what we do here, share stories, connect with folks." She gestured toward the crowd, trying to bring the warmth back, but the tension only deepened. Kevin's gaze was sharp. "Connect? Is that what you call it? Sounds more like you're trying to crack me open for ratings." The accusation cut deep, drawing audible gasps. Kelly's jaw tightened, though she held her composure. "Nobody's cracking anybody," she replied, forcing a small smile. "We're here to talk about you, your work, your passion. What's got you fired up?" She leaned forward, extending an olive branch, but Kevin wasn't ready to take it. Uncrossing his arms, he pointed not aggressively, but with conviction. "What's got me fired up," he said, "is people acting like they know me, like they're entitled to every piece of my life." The audience shifted, some nodding, others whispering, caught between empathy and discomfort. Offstage, chaos erupted. A producer barked into a headset, "Get ready to cut to commercial." But the cameras kept rolling, capturing every flicker of tension, every unspoken word, as the show began to spiral beyond anyone's control. Kelly, realizing the moment had slipped far beyond scripted TV, leaned forward once more. "All right, Kevin," she said gently. "Then let's talk about what you want." Her tone was soft but steady, a last attempt to steer the storm. The crowd waited in silence, hanging on his response because everyone knew they were witnessing something raw, real and completely unscripted. Kelly tried to steer the moment back on course, her tone light and practiced. "This movie, your co-star, the laughs, what's the vibe?" she asked, forcing a brightness into her voice. But Kevin's stare didn't soften. "The vibe?" he repeated, his tone almost mocking. "The vibe is I'm here to promote a project, not spill my soul. But you keep pushing like it's your job to fix me." The words hung heavy in the air. Kelly's smile faltered, her patience thinning. "Fix you? Kevin, I'm just asking questions. The same as I do with every guest," she replied, her voice sharpening, a rare flash of steel beneath her southern charm. The audience leaned in, sensing a boundary had been crossed. Kevin scoffed, leaning back in his chair and spreading his hands wide. "Every guest? Come on, Kelly, you don't grill them like this. You save the deep cuts for me because what? You think I owe you some big emotional moment?" The accusation stung. Kelly's eyes flashed, her composure cracking. "I'm doing my job, Kevin. You don't like it? That's on you." The tension between them was electric. Two professionals locked in a public standoff neither wanted to lose. The audience, fully caught in the drama, clapped sporadically, unsure whether to cheer or stay quiet. A woman in the front row broke the silence, shouting, "Tell him, Kelly!" The comment sparked a mix of cheers and uneasy boos. Kevin's head snapped toward the crowd, his expression darkening. "See?" he said, his voice rising. "This is what I mean. Everybody wants a piece, wants me to play the part." He turned back to Kelly, his tone softening but still edged with exhaustion. "I'm a comedian, not your therapy session." Kelly took a slow breath, unclenching her hands. "Nobody's saying you're anything but you, Kevin. But you're on my show and we talk real here. If that's too much, I get it." Her voice was calm but firm, a challenge disguised as understanding. Kevin stared at her for a long moment, his chest rising and falling as if weighing his next move. The studio fell silent, the camera zooming in to capture the storm brewing behind his eyes. Then deliberately he stood. His movements were slow, deliberate, controlled. The microphone clipped to his jacket glinted under the lights as he straightened. "Maybe it is too much," he said quietly. The words final and sharp as a blade. Gasps rippled through the audience. Kelly's eyes widened, her hand instinctively reaching out as if to stop him. Kevin Hart stood tall beneath the blazing lights, his small frame somehow commanding the entire room. His words, "Maybe it is too much," hung in the charged air, a quiet explosion that silenced the crowd. Kelly froze mid-gesture, her face a swirl of shock, frustration, and disbelief. The audience leaned forward, some clutching their seats, others covering their mouths. The cameras didn't blink, catching every second of the live unraveling. Offstage, producers scrambled in panic, voices crackling over headsets. "He's walking. He's actually walking," one whispered. But Kevin didn't move just yet. His gaze stayed locked on Kelly, daring her to speak. Kelly's composure trembled but held. Lowering her hand, she steadied her voice, firm but laced with emotion. "Kevin, you don't have to do this. Sit down, let's talk. Let's keep it real." Her plea was genuine, her eyes searching his for a way back to civility. Kevin shook his head, a bitter smile tugging at his lips. "Real?" he echoed. "That's what you call this circus?" He gestured around to the audience, the cameras, the polished set. "You think this is real? This is a game, Kelly, and I'm done playing it." The audience reacted in a wave, some clapping, some booing, torn between loyalty and disbelief. The accusation hit Kelly hard. Her face flushed, her usual warmth giving way to raw honesty. "A game?" she shot back, stepping closer. "Kevin, I'm here every day pouring my heart out for these people," she said, motioning to the audience. "You think I don't get tired too? You think I don't feel the pressure? But I show up. I try to make it mean something." Her voice cracked just slightly, the vulnerability beneath her professionalism breaking through. The audience responded with a surge of applause, the sound echoing across the studio. Kevin's jaw tightened, his hands flexing at his sides as if restraining the urge to fire back. Finally, he stepped toward the edge of the stage, his mic still live, his voice echoing through the speakers. "You show up, sure, but you don't get to decide what I owe you. or what I owe them," he said, nodding toward the audience. "I've been carrying everybody's expectations my whole life, and I'm tired, Kelly. Tired of being your feel-good story." The rawness in his words cut through the noise, silencing the crowd. For a moment, even Kelly seemed to soften, hearing the pain beneath the anger. But she wasn't ready to back down. Rising to her feet, she met his gaze head-on, her eyes burning. "Nobody's making you a story, Kevin. You're here because you're you, because people love you. But you're acting like we're the enemy." The word hit hard, and Kevin's expression hardened again. "You want to know what the enemy is?" He shot back. "It's this. This whole setup where I've got to smile and pretend everything's fine while you dig for some moment to make your show pop." The audience gasped, the tension reaching its peak. Some shouted, "Come on, Kevin," while others called out in defense of Kelly. The producers waved frantically for a commercial break, but the director shook his head, too caught up in the moment to cut away. Kelly's voice dropped low, steady but fierce. "If you think that's what this is, then you don't know me at all." Kevin stood there, his chest heaving, caught between anger and regret. The studio was a powder keg. Every eye was on him. After a long pause, his shoulders lowered slightly, his voice quiet but heavy. "Maybe I don't," he said, the edge in his tone softening. Just a little. Then, without another word, he reached for his mic and unclipped it. The tiny gesture felt monumental. He tossed it onto the chair beside him, the thud echoing through the speakers like a gavel drop, final and irreversible. Kevin turned and began walking off stage, his steps slow but certain. Kelly stood frozen, her hand half raised, her mouth open in disbelief as the audience erupted, some cheering, some booing, all stunned by what they'd just witnessed. Kevin Hart's footsteps echoed across the studio floor as he disappeared backstage, leaving behind only the hum of his discarded microphone and the lingering shock of a moment that had turned live television into something heartbreakingly real. The audience was in chaos, a storm of cheers, boos and stunned whispers that filled the air with electric tension. Kelly Clarkson stood frozen under the stage lights, her face a swirl of emotions, shock, anger, and a flicker of hurt. The cameras, ever hungry, zoomed in, catching the subtle tremor in her hands before she clasped them tightly together. Behind the scenes, the producers scrambled in panic. One shouted into a headset to cut the feed, but the director, eyes gleaming with a strange excitement, stopped them. He sensed it. This wasn't just television, it was raw, unscripted history unfolding live. Kelly took a deep breath, her professionalism kicking in. She turned to the audience with a shaky smile. "Well, folks, that was unexpected," she said, her voice steady, though her eyes betrayed the strain. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. "Let's take a quick break and come back with some music." The applause that followed was uneven. Some clapped hesitantly, others with eager energy, still processing what they had just seen. As the show cut to a toothpaste commercial, the bright jingle felt jarringly out of place against the backstage tension. In the green room, Kevin Hart paced like a caged storm, hands on his hips, his breathing heavy. His manager, frazzled and red-faced, burst in with a phone clutched tight. "What was that, Kev?" "You just torched the whole segment." Kevin spun around, his eyes blazing. "I'm done, man. Done with being everybody's dancing monkey." His voice cracked, not from fury but exhaustion. The manager's tone softened. "I get it. But you can't just walk off like that. You know how this looks." Kevin dropped onto the couch, rubbing his face with both hands. "I don't care how it looks. I'm not a prop for her show." Meanwhile, Kelly sat silently in her dressing room, the door half open. Her assistant hovered nearby, unsure whether to speak. Kelly stared at her reflection, noticing faint lines around her eyes that seemed deeper tonight. "Did I push too hard?" she murmured. The assistant hesitated before replying gently. "You were just doing your job, Kelly." He came in defensive. Kelly nodded slowly but frowned. "Maybe. But I saw it in his eyes, something's eating at him." She stood, straightening her dress, resolve forming behind her tired eyes. "I'm not letting this end like that. Not on my show." Out on stage, the audience buzzed. Phones lit up as clips of the walk-off began spreading online, already going viral before the commercials ended. Crew members scrambled to reset, the band tuning up, but the energy was off, uneasy, uncertain. When Kelly returned to the stage, her smile was bright but forced. She sang with power, her voice soaring, but her heart was clearly elsewhere. The audience clapped along, yet their eyes kept drifting toward the empty chair where Kevin had sat. Whispers floated through the room. Was he coming back? In the hallway, Kevin's manager worked damage control over the phone when a producer approached him urgently. Kelly wants to talk to him off camera. Kevin, overhearing, tensed. Talk? She had her chance. The producer, calm but firm, replied, She's not the enemy, Kevin. 5 minutes. Just hear her out. Kevin hesitated, doubt flickering across his face, then finally nodded and followed her down the dim hallway lined with posters of past guests smiling forever at peace. The producer led Kevin into a small conference room where Kelly waited by the window. Her arms were crossed, not in defiance but in restraint. When the door closed behind them, the air felt fragile. Kelly spoke first, her voice soft but sure. I didn't mean to push you out there. That's not who I am. Kevin stood near the door, tense, his expression guarded. Then why did it feel like you were coming for me? Kelly sighed, brushing her hair back. I was trying to connect, to get something real. People love you for more than the jokes. I thought we were vibing. I should have backed off. Kevin let out a bitter laugh. Vibing? Every time I sit on a couch like yours, people want me to bleed for them, to give some big emotional moment. I'm tired of it. His voice wavered, and for the first time Kelly saw the weariness beneath his bravado. I hear you, she said softly. And I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to make you a spectacle. I just thought we could talk like friends. Kevin looked down, his defenses faltering. Friends don't put friends on the spot, he muttered. Fair, Kelly admitted. But you didn't have to walk out. That hurt. Not just me, but everyone out there. The music from the stage seeped faintly through the walls. Kelly's assistant peeked in to remind them time was running short, but Kelly waved her off. You're not a prop, Kevin. Nobody thinks that. But you're also not just a guest. You're Kevin Hart. People care when you speak from the heart. That's why I pushed, maybe too hard. Kevin's shoulders sank, his anger melting into something raw. I don't know how to do this sometimes, he confessed quietly. Everyone wants something from me, and I'm just trying to keep it together. Kelly stepped closer, her tone gentle. You don't have to do it alone. Not out there. Not here. She paused, meeting his eyes. Come back out. Finish the show, not for me, for you. Kevin stared at the door, her words echoing. He could leave and let the story become another viral meltdown. Or he could walk back out and reclaim the moment. After a long pause, he exhaled, grabbed the doorknob and stepped out. As they walked toward the stage, the producer's relief was visible. The band's music swelled as the commercial break ended. Kelly glanced at Kevin, uncertain but hopeful. He gave a small nod, enough. The stage lights flared and Kelly strode out first, voice bright and steady. All right, y'all, we're back. The crowd roared, anticipation buzzing. And guess who's with me? Kevin Hart. The audience exploded in cheers. Kevin walked out grinning, not the practiced Hollywood smile, but something real. He waved, sat down and leaned back, looser now. Kelly smiled, genuine this time. So, Kevin, she said lightly, we had a moment earlier, didn't we? Laughter rippled through the crowd. Kevin chuckled. Yeah, we did. I got a little heated. Kelly nodded. We both did. But you're here, and that's what matters. What followed was easy, honest. They joked. They talked about his new film. And when the topic turned deeper, family, struggle, Kevin let his guard down. This movie hit close to home, he said quietly. I don't always talk about that. But maybe I should. The crowd fell silent, drawn into the honesty of the moment. Kelly smiled softly. That's why we love you, Kevin, for all of it. The applause that followed wasn't wild, it was warm, human. By the time the show ended, the tension was gone, replaced with mutual respect. Backstage, they exchanged a quiet nod. No cameras, no pretense. Just two people who'd been through a storm together and come out stronger. The internet would buzz for days about the walk-off, but that wasn't the story anymore. The real story was the comeback. The moment raw emotion turned into reconciliation, live on air.